Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Thomas. I'm the founder of Power Through Healing, and I'm so excited to share with you today on Conversations with Pearl.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here. Won't you leave the clouds you're under? Ain't it funny how there ain't no rain? All clean. Why'd it take so long to leave you in the rearview mirror? Now nobody gonna steal my sunshine or turn my blue sky gray. All I know is at the end of the day, wildflowers grow when there ain't no.
Hey everybody, this is Pearl Sharenza with Women Successful Living, and we are on another episode of Conversations with Pearl. And I am so excited to have our guest today, Amanda Thomas. And boy, she has a story. And for those of you that are listening, I just want you to maybe even grab your daughter that's maybe sitting next to you, your young adult, and have her sit down and listen to Amanda today, because you're going to get some great inspiration for her. And what a way Amanda has changed her life. And, Amanda Thomas is an impact leader working to promote mental wellness, self-empowerment, and conscious evolution. In 2021, Amanda launched Power Through Healing. It's a global initiative for change and healing in our world. And who doesn't need more healing in our world, right? Her mission is to awaken as many people as possible to the power of being within themselves. And, everybody's listening knows that's, I love that. Like, what can we do to put ourselves first? I think maybe was you, Amanda, who quoted one time that we live with our body, right? We're born with our body. We die with our body. We are with ourselves. So putting ourselves first and being that empowerment. I just love what you're bringing and doing, Amanda. And I just think it's so powerful. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
We're so excited to have you. So I always love to start back. Like, let's go back, to what led you to the journey you're on today? Because I feel like we all have a story to share that brings us to what we're doing today, that brings us to paying it forward for some reason or another. So tell us a little bit about growing up, what that was like, and what was your young adulthood like for you?
Sure. So I grew up in a semi small town, probably about 120,000 people. So it was a pretty relaxed childhood, I would say, overall. Looking back, I know there was a few moments of disconnect for sure, like we all have. But really, the chaos kind of started when I was 18 and my dad left and my parents were going through a divorce. It was a pretty rocky time for all of us. I have two older brothers. We're pretty close in age. So I would say something that kind of contributed to maybe some of the struggles I had a little bit later on in my adulthood was just having such a shakeup during that important moment in life, like just graduated high school and just preparing to become an adult out in the world. And my mom was really distracted. Obviously, there's no hard feelings, but she had a lot on her plate trying to deal with that and just kind of the emotions that come from growing up, and then on top of that having that going on in my home life didn't necessarily prepare me, I feel like. And so, I had fun in my 20s. I stayed with my mom for a while. I think I was about 24 years old when I moved away from home. I decided to move away and go stay with my brother, who at the time had moved away to Maryland. And so I had no plan. I just decided I want to get out of this small town. I know that there's a bigger world out there. I'm just going to see what happens. And so I went and I moved away. Of course, I met a guy and, kind of got wrapped into that relationship. We ended up moving to Texas, and I had no ties in Texas. I didn't have any family, I don't have any friends. All I had was that one person that I knew. And so it was a huge adjustment. And this is where that moment of realization comes in hindsight, is when you're living your life just on a whim, you don't have any intention, you're not asking yourself the question of, what do I really want? What do I want to be creating for my life? Who am I? I was very much attached to that identity of girlfriend. And so I jumped into a career. When we moved to Texas, I got my real estate license. And if you know anything about real estate, you have to be pretty hardcore. You have to really be interested in like sales and money and phone calls and meetings. And, you have to be really confident. You have to be really assured, in yourself and what you're capable of. And I was not anywhere close to that at the time. I was very insecure. I was pretty shy for the most part. I wasn't really open to presenting myself to the world. And so, long story short, I got into real estate. A few years go by, and well, a couple years go by, and the relationship goes to hell for the most part. It gets pretty toxic. And then I was accumulating so much debt because I wasn't selling houses. I just wasn't It wasn't my forte. And so I accumulated a bunch of debt, like tens of thousands of debt at this point. And after the relationship was done, I was literally just living by myself. I had no one else to really rely on. My family doesn't have the means to really support anyone else other than ourselves. We help each other out when we can. But so I was faced with an eviction notice, a final eviction notice. And I just remember that day thinking, oh my God, like, how did my life get to this point? I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I had no clue what had happened to get me to such, a hard hitting truth. And so I had the option of going home. I could stay with my mom. She surely would have welcomed me back. But keep in mind that over the past few years, I had been pretty much hiding everything that was going on. I was lucky to live so far away from family and friends that I could kind of put a mask on things and say, oh, I'm fine, everything's fine. I could put on a happy face when I was home and then return to the chaos. And so I couldn't really fathom having to explain to anyone else what had happened because I couldn't articulate it for myself. So trying to articulate it to someone else was just so overwhelming, like more overwhelming than what I decided to do, which was pack up a few things and live in my car. I thought, wow, I'm just going to live in my car for a little while, and until I figure out what I'm doing, what is the point to this life? I just had that feeling that we all get sometimes where there has to be something more. My intuition told me there's a bigger picture here, and if I just decide to keep going, just step by step, it ended up being minute by minute a lot of the time, but I felt like I would find those answers that my soul was searching for. And it took a little bit longer than I would have liked. It ended up being a little over a year that I was living out of that car, but I sure did learn who I was that year, and I did get some answers to the questions that I needed to help catapult me to where I'm at today.
Wow, that's so much for somebody. So, I mean, I'm not going to ask your age because I don't like to do that, but somebody's so young, right? And so unpacking that, like, I mean, who hasn't? Those of us listening, who hasn't found a guy? If you think back when we were younger, we become so enamored with them, and you just go anywhere with them, right? Or just go and do all that with them, and then you realize, oh shoot, what have I done, right? And then you're kind of like you said, you're in this cycle of like going, okay, I'm the girlfriend, but it's becoming toxic. Like, what do I need to do to get myself out of that? And many people are listening, and I grew up the same way that my parents, in hindsight, I'm the one who's helped my parents often. And I moved out of my house at 17, because I did not want to have, I worked a full-time job, went to high school. I was, paying on my car, my insurance. I was like, and I graduated high school at 17. It's like, I have rules. I mean, like really, I have curfew, and I'm like, so I moved out, and there was things, and I feel what you were saying. Like, I didn't want to tell my parents some of the things because our pride sticks in,
Yeah.
right? We don't want our parents
Mhm.
to worry. I'm a mom of now two boys, and I would be worried about them, and the last thing that you want is your mom, worrying about my daughter sleeping in a car,
Right.
and I remember my son was dating a young girl one time, and she stayed with us for a little bit, and then she left. And she actually, I mean, when we want to do something, we find a way to do it. So she was living in a tent in a campground, and
Yes.
so like I love what you said. Like, you need to figure out who you were, and you recognize that I have all this debt, all this stuff going on. If I go home, I may be stuck, right? And so to stay in your car, to live in your car for almost a year, if not longer, that takes a lot of going. We sit in our homes and our apartments, and we have all this space to work, but you're sitting there going, it's the reality in your face every time you get in that car. Because we get in our car sometimes to go for a ride, to get away for things, to take us on journeys, where your car was literally sitting in the middle of your journey, right?
Yeah, and it was a very lonely time. And like you said, though, I didn't want to worry anyone, because to me, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I got this figured out. Like, I have a plan. But to anyone else, that plan would have sounded so outrageous that, you know what I mean? So it's like, I couldn't try and explain it to anyone else. I had to take ownership for my life. For the very first time, I took ownership for my life and decided that I'm going to do whatever it takes to not only feel better, but to do better, to have better. And I think that's a huge step in all of our lives when we realize, it's up to me to save myself. I can't keep playing the victim card. I can't keep waiting for a miracle. I am the savior that I've been waiting for.
Yeah, because if we don't, we talk on this show often, and I coach on, if you don't put your mask on first and figure out what's going on with you, you're never going to figure it out, right? You're always, or even if somebody's taking care of it for you all the time, you're never going to thrive. And I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and I feel like, what's happening in our world, and I may get some of my younger audience going, that's not who we are. But I feel like there was a point in time, and I feel like it was after my generation. And I don't know what generation X or whatever. I don't know what I am, but I'm just saying, I'm 58 years young, and I feel like the parents after, like that generation after me, we feel like we have to fix things for our kids and make sure they're winning all the time. And there's so many lessons in the falling and the failing and the, and overcoming that fear. And we don't want our kids to be afraid of something. We don't want them to fail at something. But I know I learned so many lessons out of what were my setbacks, right? Or my things that didn't work out. You call them failures, whatever you want to call them. So many lessons in that it's made me who I am today. And if we put everybody in this bubble and go, I don't want you to fall, they're not going to thrive. I was actually speaking with somebody, a young man last night. He's an amazing, amazing dad for like 25 years old, a great, great dad. And unfortunately, the mom is using the little girl as a pawn. And, you want to see her, you got to pay me. You want to see her, you got to buy my groceries and all these things. And I'm like going, and I said to him, I said, you're doing it the right thing, because he's doing all the steps to try to take care of her and to stop this cycle from happening. And I said, I told him, I go, 3 years old to that 7 years old, if you're stepping at the right time, because if you don't step in, our the rest of our life, that's our thinking, right? Amanda, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I fully agree that, all most of our programming, I think it's like some say 95, some say 98% even, is we're programmed between those ages of 2 and 7. So I know for me, like I said, I feel almost guilty sometimes even trying to put anything negative on my childhood, because my mom was such a good mom. She put us kids first. She was very much that protector and wanted us to live a life, maybe that she didn't necessarily get when she was younger. Like you said, the parents are always trying to make up for what they didn't have or what they couldn't have when they were, a child themselves. And so in a lot of ways, though, she almost disempowered us in a little bit, because we started to rely so heavily on support. And so later in life, when I had to try and do the adult thing, it was like, okay, but what do I do? Like, really seriously, how do I do this? Because my parents didn't prepare us for that. My mom was also making up for a very neglectful father. He wasn't a big presence in our life emotionally. He was just there. He didn't attend the games. He didn't come to any of the practices. He didn't help with the rides. He was never really present. And so, it was, she was doing a lot of making up, I feel like, for a lot of things. And the truth is, we probably could have became even a little bit more resilient if we would have maybe had more conversations about it, if she would have felt more empowered herself. And so I will say my favorite thing has been watching my mom's transformation since that divorce, and what a completely different person she is from when I was 16, 18 to now. You don't ask ages, but I'll tell you I'm 33. So it's been amazing, and the relationship that we have now and the conversations that we have now. Yes, I wish we would have had them when I was 16, but we get to have these really awesome and meaningful conversations just about life. And when we grow up, and you'll probably notice with your kids as well, is it's so fun to just talk like human to human, not even parent to child, just saying, wow, like you've been through a lot and tell me more about you. It's just such a fascinating thing to learn about our parents later on too.
I love that. How sweet you recognize your mom and all her
Mhm.
success. It's so awesome. And it's really, it goes to show, I could, you love your mom, and to recognize it. And I think that happens a lot in situations like what you grew up in, that the parent who is the primary parent is trying to make up for the other one. And and then they forget themselves, right? And that's kind of was my story. I put my kids first. I've been married for 35 years. I got a great marriage, and I put my kids always came before me. And then finally, I took this course and had a friend named Shannon that just is like, well, who are you? Because I still don't hear Pearl in here. I hear everybody else, and so you're right. And so I think it's really powerful that you recognize your mom. And I hope when she hears this, she gives you a big hug, and so
Yeah.
she's done right by you guys. And
Oh, for sure. She's my
yeah.
biggest cheerleader. She doesn't always
Yay.
understand me and what I'm doing. And she always talks about, that healing work that you're doing. And I know, we always joke about it whenever I say something as a joke. She's like, well, aren't you helping people heal? And that was just so rude. And I mean, she's just so funny.
I get that
So
too from my family. They're like, "Well, don't you do this? Why you act like that?" It's
yeah,
like, "No."
yeah.
And here's the thing, Amanda, I say all the time, like I have a client come in and I'll ask them, "Have you worked with a coach before?" "Yes." "Well, how was that?" "Well, they said I was doing everything wrong and whatever." And I'm like, "Well, are they doing anything perfect?" And they're like, and I've had people say, "Yeah, my coach says they live exactly day to day every day." And I said, "Then you should have fired him, because
Mhm.
nobody lives. I'm a coach, you're a coach. We can all say life is not perfect every day." I mean, my gosh, I lost my son, almost 2 months ago in a car accident. So life has been totally different, and so it's things get thrown at us as coaches, and we are human, right? And so
Right.
that's a good reminder. So let me ask you this. So you went through the car, you lived in the car. Okay, people are going to ask me, I'm sure when they hear this. Okay, let's talk about for a second. How do you live in your car? Were you working? How do you bathe? All that hygiene stuff. Like, share with us how you did that, and share with us your craziest story living in the car.
Yes, absolutely. I will say that living in your car is just it's a major testimony of learning that your inner peace comes from within. Like your peace comes from within. That's the epitome of having to cultivate inner peace. And so the environment around me was so uncertain all of the time. And so yes, I was working at the time. I was working at a restaurant. I was a waitress, and then I would occasionally like go into the real estate office and try and do some business there. But again, I was in such a deep depression that like getting myself prepared for the day was, especially in that circumstance of having to go to a public bathroom to get ready, and waking up to that dumb Walmart sign every morning. It's just like so defeating. And so I would say like literally the first 4 to 6 months I was barely getting up. Like I was struggling. I was deeply depressed. And then I I guess, well, so for the logistics of it, to answer your question, get a gym membership, go shower at the gym. I found a Walmart that had a really convenient, like two gas stations on the corners, so I could not feel so embarrassed from constantly going in and out the same gas station to go to the bathroom, etc. I ate a lot of gas station food, a lot of fast food. I was very unhealthy at the time, and you just rotate a few outfits at a time. You learn like, oh my God, like my clothes are gonna look wrinkled, I'm gonna look frumpy. Like, you have all of these insecurities and so much shame attached to it. And again, when it comes to filling your days, you're just like, what do I do all day? Like, I mean, sit in the back of my car, try and find a shady place to park it, and then let all the passerbys like come looking by and seeing you. So it was just a deeply shameful time, and I'm still working on releasing that shame from that time, because that's a really important lesson to understand is you have to release that emotional attachment to past versions of yourself and past experiences. I I don't need to hold on to shame from that time because I was just doing the best I could with what I knew at the time. This was a lifetime of, faulty programming that had gotten me to that point. Insecurity, the feelings of not being worthy, not deserving, not knowing my capabilities, all of that just wrapped into this one, pinnacle moment. So I'm still kind of working on some of the releasing of the, I would never say it's as extreme as like PTSD, but I would say like there are like triggers from that time, right? Like for example, I am kind of rotating between my mom and brother's house right now. So yes, I did come full circle and moved home a little while back, and so I remember one morning recently where I left my mom's house because she has a home daycare. So I usually leave, in the mornings, and I either go to the library or Starbucks or whatever to work. And so I was leaving and I just was like, I'm going to go to my brother's house for a little bit. I wasn't feeling super well. I'm going to lay down for a little bit longer. And I got there and his girlfriend was here, his, girlfriend's daughter and my niece were there. And I realized, oh my God, I have nowhere to lay down. And that feeling just took me back, like shook me. I was like, "Whoo, Amanda, yes, you do. Like, you're fine. Like, you have a place to lay down. You're just overreacting in this moment, right?" Like, I remember being so deeply like, this feels exactly like it did when I had nowhere to go, when I just wanted to rest, right? And so that was just an example. Like, we still have triggers from our past, right? And so, anyways, long story short, I totally forgot what your question was and where I'm going with this sentence.
No, you're doing great. So tell us, like, so what, I love what you say, you awaken people with from their within, right? So what was your awakening moment in this
Mhm.
car? You're finding these places to stay, you're eating the food. Like, what was that moment that said, okay, I've got this, the light bulb went off and you were like, this is what I want to do with my life?
Yes, absolutely. So it was just truly, I think it was just a conversation with the right person. An old friend and I were talking. It kind of woke me up again to realize that, I'm not alone. There's more life to, be lived. And so it took, kind of friendships that would kind of help me and sustain me. And then that woke me up to realizing, okay, it's time to create something new. It's up to me to create something new. And then I set the intention of, I know I want to help people. I know I want to serve the world in a greater way. How can I do that? And so it took me finding a little bit more of a secure job, still in real estate, but it was more of an easier, paycheck to receive. And I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do forever, but it was helping me with stability, right? And so I did that. I started to just come across the right people, the right things, the right YouTube videos, the right books. And, whatever it was that just, I felt like it was truly just something higher than me kind of guiding me to, in 2020, then I had a spiritual awakening. And that really just catapulted me to realize that, again, there's a much bigger picture than what we can see right now. And if I want to serve the world, I have to be the source of everything that I want. That was Neil Donald Walsh's awakening moment for me, was be the source of everything that you want. And so for me, that meant everything that I had been learning, everything that has helped me, I want to teach to others and share with others. I came across Marissa Peer and her method of rapid transformational therapy. This is a really awesome form of excuse me. This is a really awesome form of hypnosis that served me really well to, again, get rid of that emotional attachment, kind of regress back to the root cause of a lot of my issues, my financial blocks, my emotional blocks. And so hypnosis, a lot of meditation, a lot of reading, just a lot of online courses, all of that just led me to becoming certified in RTT. And then awakening to this moment of, I want to have an initiative that I'm building, which was Power Through Healing. I really launched that last year. And so speaking, and I'm working on a book. So speaking, writing, teaching, coaching, anything that I can do to spread higher levels of consciousness and awareness in our world is my mission now.
I love that, and I love that, you had people like no matter who you believe in. I truly believe that for me, God brings people into our lives, right? To help us move to those next steps that we have to get to. And I love that you shared that those different people who came in, like you were open to listening to them too, right? Like you weren't just going, yeah, no, I don't, and that's really important. Like we need to be open to listening to the signs that are coming to us that, it could be different things. It could be a word, it could be a quote, it could be something you read, something you watch. It could be somebody like sitting right next to you and just holding your hand, right? It could be any of those things and to listen to those. And I just love that now you've taken that uh, so that other people are starting to feel that and get the benefit of what you've learned and what your training is now. So tell us like what's it look like when somebody works with you? How's that process and what are some of the things you've seen in working with your clients some of the transformations?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the number one thing is you come to me for an issue and there's always an underlying belief. So my job is to help you get to the root cause of why you feel less confident, why you're not being productive, why you're not showing up fully, right? Why you feel stuck and like you have no purpose. And so getting to the root cause of that, and there's three beliefs that we really all share, which is number one, I am not enough. We all have that sense of never being enough. I feel like I'm not good enough, whatever that might be. There's another huge belief that comes up, and this was my biggest one, is that's not available to me. And just believing like everyone else can have it, it's possible for everyone else, but it's just not possible for me, right? And that was just kind of some programming that went through me especially, and it comes into a lot with finances and the process of receiving and letting yourself feel that abundance come in. And then the last one is really that feeling of I'm not connected or I'm disconnected. And so they all play off of each other in a lot of ways, and usually there's kind of one overriding theme. And for me, I would say over the past 2 years of doing this work, the number one thing that comes in is love, that feeling of not being loved, not being worthy of love, unable to give love, whatever it might be, but it comes down to love. And that has just really transformed my life. What I love is like in helping others transform and find clarity and understanding for themselves, I'm able to also expand and have, a mini transformation within myself. I'm always like having new moments of aha, like, okay, yeah, oh my gosh, that means something. So it comes down to that feeling of being lovable is so massive. And so for me, if there's any message I can ever get across is how worthy you are of receiving love just for being you, just nothing else. You are lovable.
I love that because you're right. It's what we say in our head is what can hold us back, or what we say in our head is what can move us forward, right? And if we tell ourselves we're not worthy, then we don't think we're worthy of
Yeah,
whatever it is. If we tell ourselves, well, everybody else gets it, but not me, yeah, everybody else is going to get it, and you're not going to get it, right? But if we
right.
can change that mindset, it says, like I say every day, I wake up, I'm thankful for my day. I am going to receive anything that's supposed to be out for me today, good, bad, or indifferent. I have a lesson to learn from all of it, right? So, because I know I'm not going to have a perfect day. Nobody can say they have a perfect day every day of the week, and if they do, I would love to meet you and pay you
Right,
$1 million because
right.
I can tell you there's some things that come up. You might handle it different than most people, and I've heard things like, something comes up, go, I'm not working with that right now. That's not worthy, that's not allowed in my space. So you kind of like block it out. And that's okay because that's how you keep some of that negative things out. And I also like having I have a word, I have a stop word. So if I start thinking, I'm tired or I'm not worthy, I have my own word. It's, I use that word. It's like it stops that thinking, go, wait a minute, you are worthy. You're not tired, get up, walk around, move around, whatever that is we tell ourselves,
That's
it's
incredibly powerful. I love that
yeah.
kind of word. And I do want to note that you asked me what else I've learned throughout this work is we never are the one that planted these limiting beliefs in our mind. We're never the ones that put them there, right? It's always something or someone external from us. And it happens from the minute we're born. I have clients that I regress back to their birth, where like literally the first thing they remember, or their subconscious has held on to, is their grandma saying, "Oh, how cute is the other baby next to him?" And so little things that you don't realize you pick up on, right? Like she was just saying, "Oh, that other baby though. Oh, that other baby is so cute." And so, well, what about me? Aren't I cute? And so something external always plants these seeds. And at some point, as we get older, as we become adults, they're not necessarily there to continue the narrative for us. And so we become the narrator of that story. We're the ones that say, the negative things, and what we're not worthy of. And we're the ones that take over that dialogue for all those other people. And so if you have the power to continue that story and that narrative, you also have the power to rewrite a new story. I want everyone to know that that is your power. You are in control of your reality, of your life, everything you're creating, everything that you want.
That's so true. I mean, we are in control. And that's why it's so important to think of ourselves first. And it's not being selfish. It's certainly not being selfish, put yourself first. It's actually empowering those that you're going to affect to do the same, because when they can see that you do things for yourself first, then they know that you're all in with them. So like if you're trying to balance everything, and for my moms, who I call CEO moms, I hate the word stay at home moms, but my CEO moms, we carry so much on our shoulders. And then if you add that you're working outside the house, that's even more on those shoulders. You have to release that stuff, right? You need to release it and take care of you first, because you can't run the household, which is a business, and you don't have to do it by yourself. There's other humans that are in that home, and they have they want to have a clean house. If they want to live in a dirty house, well, then leave it dirty, right? But they have
Mhm.
a role in that. Even as little as 2 years old, you can teach your kids to put their clothes in the drawer. It might not be perfect, but little things like that. And so, and then if you don't take care of yourself first, all that stuff is not balanced, right? And so I love that you share that. And so tell me about the hypnosis piece. Like what do you expect? I can say I've never been hypnotized for like coaching. I was at an event and somebody came up and, did like a entertainment kind of thing, but
Mhm.
nothing for like empowering myself. So tell me about that.
Sure. Yeah. So, hypnosis is just a natural state of mind. It's just me facilitating you into a really highly relaxed state. The difference between hypnosis and meditation is really that your mind is on a higher alert. Your mind is actually more aware of what's going on, and so that gives us access to the subconscious mind, which as is usually running our life, which those are our programs, those are our systems, that's everything that runs our life for the majority of our days. And so to be in a more highly alert state, but your nervous system being asleep, so it's kind of it's like you're deeply relaxed, but your mind is alert, and that's a really powerful thing. And so the method that I use specifically includes regressing back to the root cause of an issue. So if you tell me I'm deeply triggered by my mom lately, I would like to get to the root cause of that. We can get very specific in what we regress back to. It could just be maybe something a little bit bigger, of like confidence issues. I'm emotionally eating, whatever it might be. So it's just a really I know it can be very emotional, yes, but it's a very fun experience to be able to say, wow, I feel so much more powerful having this information. What we're doing is we're playing detective. We're gathering clues of how those past scenes in our life, how are they connected to this scene in your life today where you're having these issues and these concerns. You're feeling blocked, you're feeling stuck. And so, yeah, so I would say the sessions usually last anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours. And it's not only the regression, but after we gather those clues, after we find the part of you that's holding on to this issue, we do some reframing, we do some interruptions, and then we let it go. And then we do the transformation. And everyone leaves with an audio about 15 to 20 minutes to listen to every single day after the session. to really help reinstate and cement those new beliefs, those new suggestions for your life. Listening to that for at least 21 days so it becomes a habit, so it becomes really deeply ingrained. And so for me, I love the process of hypnosis. I noticed pretty quickly that yes, it's amazing the transformation that that one session can do, but we often need a little bit more support afterwards to help integrate all of these new things into our lives. So for me, that's where, the coaching comes in as well, the support calls. So I do packages at this point where it's usually 2 to 3 hypnosis sessions and then 2 to 3 support calls as well. So 6 to 9 weeks is kind of that happy place with clients. And then, of course, we can continue on if needed.
I love that you get the recording too, because I know if you kind of get in that state, like what the we, going home and having that recording. And like you said, that 21 to 28 days, getting that habit. It's so important. I just love this. This has been so much fun, this conversation. So I want to ask you, who has been your biggest inspiration in your life? I mean, I know you've talked about your mom and how she's, pushed through, and, I think it's so powerful. What a great example she is for you guys, and even for the women listening, is, no matter what's there, you can still push through and still grow, right? But who else besides your mom has been one of your big inspirations?
Honestly, that's a great question. I can't pinpoint one person. I'm just so deeply inspired by anyone that has taken responsibility for their life. So anytime I see an empowering story, I hear an amazing podcast. My brothers inspire me. They both had children young, and they have stepped up as these amazing fathers to their children that just makes me so happy. I haven't talked to my dad since I was 18 when he left. So, and even before then, like I said, it was 18 years of him not really being there anyways. So I'm so empowered by anyone that is creating something new for themselves and for the next generation. And I personally, I don't have any children. I don't really know if I'll ever have children, but I love the children in my life. I love being an aunt. I love my friends' children, and just seeing everything that they're stepping into and the world that is out there for them to explore and to experience is just so powerful to me.
I love that. And having people around, and it sounds like you've got a great source of people around you now that like are lifting you up. And I just think that's so powerful. And it's important that we know that we do, we need to check our circle, right? Of who's around us. Because like you said, you get empowered by that circle. But if your circle's not empowering you, you want to look at you first. Maybe there's something with you, right? But maybe the people around you are not bringing that energy. And, I truly believe people are a season. There's reason why people are in our lives. And, I get what you say about your dad. My dad, like I said, I'm 58 years young. I was a daddy's girl. I got married. We tried for 10 years to have children. Our oldest was born of our hearts, and my dad was great with them when he was a baby. But as he got older, my oldest son was mixed race, and my dad became very racist towards my son. And I was like, and I didn't find out till after my dad was no longer really around us, because my parents were divorced after 43 years of marriage. Years later, my dad moved in with us, and that's when this all started to come to life. He moved out, and I didn't realize how bad it was till his ex-wife, his second wife, told me some things. And I was like, you can't be my dad anymore. You haven't earned that right to be my father anymore. And I remember one time I went through this really great weekend at my church, and one of the things was talking about struggles that we're having, and I, at the time, my parents were divorcing, and I felt like I was in this tug of war, right? And so my pastor, Father Bill, said, listen, we come into this life, we don't pick our parents, right? We play it, our life is a ball game. We make the rules of our ball game. And if somebody shouldn't be playing the game right now, let them sit in the bench. It's okay. They can have a sit on the bench, right? And so I got through all that, and then these things happened with my dad. And I was like, you don't get to sit in my bench for quite a long time. And I literally wrote an obituary to him being my father.
Yeah.
I forgave him in the same time I did that.
Yeah.
But the obituary was basically saying, while you're physically here, you no longer have earned the right to be my dad, And so it's very powerful. It was releasing for me and all of that. And so, it's, and we're not the only ones, Amanda, you and I, that can say we don't have one or both of our parents in our lives because of behaviors or things like that. But we also are two women that don't let it hold us back. And many times those that are listening are in a situation right now where it's holding them back. And so I just want to say to those that are listening to, get somebody, find somebody like what Amanda's done is, who around you can inspire you? Who
Mm,
can you go to and have a conversation that, listen, I'm struggling with this situation right now. Can you just like talk to me? I have many friends that are still checking up on me with the loss of my son. And I tell them all the time, it's so awesome that people just put the call and say, I haven't forgotten you. How are you doing? Right. And
mm.
so I just love that you, again, that circle that we have around us are so, so powerful. I want to ask you, so you do a lot of reading and all that. Do you have a favorite quote at all that you like to live by a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the two that I go by the most. One by Hal Elrod is, "You are as worthy, deserving, and capable of having a life that you love as anyone else on this planet." And I just love that quote. I use it every single day. I use it in all of my transformations with my clients. I say it all the time. And the other one that I've been really saying over the past 6 months or so is that awesome quote of, "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." Because for me, a big response when I feel overwhelmed is to freeze up. And so I know that if I just start somewhere, just anywhere, and I don't judge what I have to use, I don't judge anything, that is my resource at the moment. Like, just I have something so that I can do something. The point is to do something, do whatever you can. So that has been my huge mantra lately.
I love both of those. And just, do something. Start, don't let it hold you back. You can't, I often say to my clients, life isn't a remote. We can't rewind, but we can figure out how we're going to go forward. We can figure out what channel we want to be on. So I love that you share
Exactly.
that. This has been so much fun. I've had a blast. So tell everybody where they can find you that's listening to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just my website is powerthroughhealing.com. You can find me on social media as well. This underscore is underscore Amanda Thomas. And those are probably the two best ways to reach me right now.
Awesome. I love it. So, everybody who watches the show knows, and you and I already talked about this, our wonderful Better Questions, Better Life cards.
Yeah.
And so I want to pull these up and I want you to let me know, share with me we're going to shuffle these and you're going to share with us, the audience, what the card resonates to you. So tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. So, I think I know this, but okay, this is a good question. How am I influencing others?
By being an example, by demonstrating the person that I want to be, and not only that, but the world that I want to live in. So that is my biggest word, is demonstrate.
So, so powerful. Yay. So, Amanda, this has been so, so much fun. I loved having you on here. And I just want to share with our audience, you can listen to Conversations with Pearl here on Spotify and all the different avenues, Apple TV, all that stuff. But we're also on YouTube. So if you love what you listen and you want to see Amanda in person, go catch up us on YouTube at Conversations with Pearl. And also, if you're listening, we are just getting back from our amazing retreat that we had in the Gulf Shores of Alabama. We had 17 great women that are together. And so if you want to join us next year through the end of September, we have our special get this year's price for next year's retreat. So you go to wslivingretreats.com. That's wslivingretreats.com. Grab your spot. We have options for payment plans and all that great stuff. You can even get a great deal if you bring your girlfriend, your best friend with you. So just go check that out again, wslivingretreats.com. But I want to remind everybody that we come into this world where there's a little rough oyster on the outside, but as we open up the oyster, you find this beautiful pearl on the inside. So I hope you all leave today finding your inner pearl of greatness. Have a great day.
Hello, sunshine.